call the meeting to order. And Nova, if you could do the roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Barron.
Here.
Councilmember Booter.
Here.
Councilmember Dramoff.
Here.
Mayor Byrne.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Delves is absent, but we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to read something. Over the last 3 weeks, our family's lost my father, and we just lost my stepmom, who was our mom for 22 years. And when my family was here several weeks ago for when we all got sworn in, they gave me a little window box with my grandfather's hammer. And I spent a lot of time with my grandfather. If I could read this, please. My brother wrote this. This hammer belonged to our grandfather, Harold Bracken. To hold this hammer is to hold a piece of family history. A hammer is an instrument of creation. It can build homes, fix broken things, and shape raw materials into something new. This hammer was with our grandfather during some of the most important times of his life. He used it for many years working on projects that brought him joy, and I was by his side for many of those years. Passing this hammer down through generations is to pass down more than just an object. It's to pass down a legacy of integrity, hard work, and love. As the mayor of Carmel, your hard work, patience, and persistence will build something that will last, and like this hammer, will leave your mark on the city you call home. Thank you. And I'd like to dedicate this meeting to my father, please, if we could.
Absolutely, sir.
All right, thank you. Let's get to business. We're going to start with public appearances. These are for items that are not on the agenda. We're going to give you 3 minutes, and again, we can't carry on a conversation with you. I'm constantly surprised at how little people know about this process, but they always wonder why we're not carrying on a conversation, but we can't because of the Brown Act. But we can confirm what you're trying to tell us, and you could clarify your points. So I'm going to open up. Are there any people in the chambers here? Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, come on up. Come on up. Yes, please.
I grew up in Southern California in the Hollywood Hills. My family has owned and managed commercial and residential properties for 70 years. I know a little something about Southern California weather. I think this is just a warning for every community, and that is we have to be really careful about our brush. We have to be really careful about the dead trees we have, the branches. I think this is something that could happen to anybody. And we know now that negligence does not pay off. So I just wanted the council to be aware that we need to think about our forest, our dead trees, our plants, and be cautious in the future.
Thank you, Sarah. James, were you going to talk? Okay.
I'm James Jungroth, and today I shipped a package down to Southern California to do my part. It was, bottom line, $370, but it made me feel really good because it was $258 worth of masks. And the problem that we have in Southern California is fire trucks have masks, cops have masks, civilians don't. Everything's sold out, okay? This is from our son-in-law who's on the ground. They've got a mother, a baby, a dog, and things are pretty rough. They were 4 miles away from going up in smoke. Eric wants more masks. He's willing to distribute them, but Roger at the fire department in Beverly Hills, 445 North Rexford Drive in Beverly Hills, of course 90210, will accept any and all masks. Better quality ones if you can, don't be cheap. Put them in a box, send them to this address. I have a number of addresses here, and mine is going to be there overnight. It'll be there in the morning for him to open it up. I took the liberty of taking Dale's card and putting it on the box and said, call me, so maybe he'll call you. But Val Gano is your environmental analyst. And I asked her, you know, as an environmental analyst, what are you doing for this environmental disaster in Southern California? It got very quiet. She had no answer. I think she's done nothing. And then eventually she hung up on me. So I would challenge Val Gano to be in charge of this movement. And I have labels for her, and she can put masks in a box, or she can write a report, or whatever she may. But I think Beverly Hills would make a good sister city, and we can do a lot to help in Southern California. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and thanks for what you're doing for the people down south. Ken?
I was actually going to say something about the behavior of some of our residents or guests that come here. And it looks like today is going to be a little benign. But it was horrifying, and I'm from Brooklyn, so I know what horrifying looks like. And I'm happy to see that today is going to not be that day. And I know that it's possibly you're going to talk about, somebody told me that, it was Chief, that you may be talking about fundraising and stuff like that for LA. And we've started a lot of stuff, but I'd love to not intersect. Thank you.
Kenny, if you'd like to talk about it, go ahead, continue. It's not agendized today, so it'll be up to
It's
our
not?
council as to
Okay.
what we can and can't do at the meeting.
We're trying to get approval of a date, several dates at Sunset, and do something at Sunset Center, similar to like a Taste of Carmel, or hopefully in the next month or so. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I did send an email. I'd like to talk to Amy about maybe having a short-term CRID addition to the money that we already collect. I called Matt Sutton, a good friend of mine, up in California Restaurant Association. He's been a lobbyist forever. He's the guy. And talk about, maybe they can talk about some statewide thing, a hospitality tax or something. I don't think anybody's going to object, whether you're in state or not, to helping out what's going on down south. So I got a bunch more, but
Go ahead.
we're gonna do some pop-ups, with wine. Get the vendors to supply food and wine, and do some special evenings. We're probably like at Village Corner, Crazy Dexter, and do it over there. And we're gonna do a bunch of those. The chamber wants to get behind all of that. We had a little brief meeting on the phone today, and I know our mayors, we've already talked about that on Friday. And so we're just going into high gear. They need help. It's unbelievable. Thank you.
We appreciate everything you do for the community. Kenny, you're always the first one to step up. Thank you. Anyone else in the chambers today?
I have an item for this on the consent agenda.
I'm going to pull it for you. You'll have a chance. All right, thank you. All right, anybody out online? All right, so I'm going to close public comment, and we're going to move on with the consent agenda. So I've got some slides on that. I started last week. As I go around and talk to people, I'm discovering many people, I'd say the vast majority of people, don't really understand some of the things that we do up here. And I've had many people thank me for bringing them up to speed on just a couple things. So each week I'm going to try to pick another one, and if any of the council people would like to do the same, I encourage you to do that. So I've always been a big fan of pulling things on the consent agenda, and sometimes you find some interesting things out. I'm going to first of all describe what the consent agenda is. It's a method of quickly approving routine items that require less than $100,000, correct? That was a recent change.
Mm-hmm.
In funding or staff feels do not require discussion or independent action. And I might, I've advised both City Administrator Rarig and our council, Brian Pierrick, to don't be afraid to interrupt me if I'm misspeaking on some of these things. I try to show them these ahead of time, but they're free to interrupt me. They also are used for items like minutes, routine financial reports, small purchases, or administrative updates. And they're intended to save time to allow council to dedicate time to more strategic or complex matters. Information's provided in advance in the packet so that everyone can study it and be prepared with any questions. And by listing the items in this manner, council can vote to approve all items in one motion and vote. So you can take care of 5 or 6 things at one time. Members of the council, commission, or you and the public may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of council, board, or commission discussion and/or public comment. All right, so don't be afraid to get involved in these discussions, and don't be afraid to read these things ahead of time. To make it a little bit easier with you, I've put some slides together because, quite frankly, a couple years ago, I had never seen these things either. They're sort of hidden away. So I'm going to show you what this all looks like, and at the same time, you're going to see what you can pull today if you want to talk about it. I'm going to pull a couple of them, so go ahead. All right, so this is what the consent agenda looks like in your packet. It's in front of us. If you have you can see this when it comes online. So there are 5 items, and I'm going to show you what each of these looks like. But basically, you have the minutes, you have monthly reports, check register. In this case, there's a resolution. Every time we make a decision up here, they have to create a resolution with whereases and therefores in it that tell officially what's going to happen, and it authorizes different things, and then the mayor signs it, and Brian signs it, correct?
The city clerk.
City clerk signs it. So I haven't signed one yet, but I'm about to. And so there are 2 resolutions, one for the budget schedule and one for a free day use at Sunset Center for AIM. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Next. So again, I'm not going to do this every time unless everybody thinks it's interesting. So this is what the minutes look like if you've never seen them, and a lot of you probably haven't. They're pretty easy, and it's good to read through it to find out what we've done in the past if you didn't attend the meeting. It's very summary level. This is a public request log, and this is rather fascinating too, because anybody at any time can ask for just about anything they want to ask about. And then Nova has to go off and do her detective work to find it and then send it out. And I've done a few of these, and I have to say that it's pretty amazing how quickly she does a lot of these things. But sometimes, as you can see on here, for some reason or another, it had to be delayed a little bit. So you can go in and see every single thing that everybody asked and see what it looked like. Next. This is a report, and in this case, I think Brandon's still doing this, the planning director. And it shows a lot of interesting information, including how many permits were pulled and so on. He also has a summary document underneath of this. So that's called the Planning and Building Department monthly report. Next. This is the public safety report. So Chief Tomasi makes this report, and this actually has a lot of pages to it, and it's a lot of work for him to put together, I'm sure. So it has summary information, some of it quite interesting because in this case it shows the average response time for all different kinds of activities that took place. I'm going to encourage in our meeting, planning the February meeting for next month, tomorrow, that we have Chief Tomasi come in, if the meeting is short enough to allow it, to explain some of this because it's complicated. I know Councilperson Ferlito had an interesting discussion a few months ago, but I think the public deserves to see the kind of records that we're keeping and understand what these numbers mean. Next. That's another version of it. Then the Public Works Department, if you go to the Forest and Beach Commission meetings, you get to see formerly Director Herrera present this report. And this report is usually 5-6 pages long. It's a lot of work. It just shows you how much goes on behind the scenes in running the city. I'm not going to talk about this, but if you come tomorrow, or when is it, Thursday, if you come Thursday to the meeting, you'll hear this month's version of it. Next. Then there's a check register. If you ever wanted to know what the city's spending money on, this is where you see it. I'm not going to go through every one of these line items, obviously, but it's transparency at its best, and take a look at it sometime. It's interesting. Next. Okay, I'm going to pull this one. It's the budget schedule. This is all the meetings that we're going to have to determine the budget for this year, and this is a big deal. And everybody in the city should be as engaged in this as they can. This is how we spend money. Next. All right, so we have a special one today. It's the authorizing a free use day at Sunset Center. The city gets how many?
12.
We get 12 a year to dole out to mostly nonprofits, I think.
All nonprofits.
All nonprofits. And I did some research with Beth Coleman from the Sunset Center, and it turns out that that's not nothing. When we give those days away, it's worth $2,000 because that's how much a nonprofit would pay for those days. So it's in essence, we're giving an in-kind donation to that nonprofit for $2,000. And in this case, it's going to an amazing organization. And I'm going to feature, or we're going to feature a different nonprofit every month. And to let you know, because this is sort of out of order with the meeting, but we're like a Silicon Valley of nonprofits here. And this one in particular was formed to help challenge youth with mental health issues. And they're putting on a campaign each year called Awareness Design Challenge. They've changed the name a little bit this year, but it allows, if you could go to the next slide, it allows all ages of kids to come and present their artwork, which has to do with the mission of AIM. And I'm going to pull this item as well, so Mark Stillwell, who's one of the founders of AIM, can come up here and say a few words, if he could. Next. All right. So that's what the packet looks like. How many of you have ever looked at it? All right. If there are 30 people here, I bet about 10 of them might have. So hopefully more will do it in the future. So what I have to ask now is, do any of you want to pull any of these items, council?
Yes.
What item?
The budget schedule, please.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay, I'd like to pull the budget schedule, and I'd like to pull number 5, the day use for Sunset Center. Yes.
Yeah, Mayor, my recommendation is that you pull all the items. When the agenda was initially published, the word consent agenda did not appear in the agenda through some process by which the agenda was printed. So it was subsequently corrected, but in light of that, my advice is that you take each item, you have it available for the public to make a comment on. If you have questions about it, you can ask it, and then take a separate vote on each of them.
Okay, very good. So would you like us to just go ahead and vote on the ones? Normally what happens when you pull an agenda item is you go ahead and vote on all the ones that didn't get pulled, get those out of the way, and then you go back and discuss the one that was pulled. So would you like us to just go through each one and take a vote on each one separately?
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, on item 1, just say item 1 is being pulled from the consent. See if any council members have questions about it. See if the public has a comment on it, and then do a roll call vote on the item.
Okay, we're going to pull item number 1. Does anybody from the council want to have a discussion about it? No? Anybody from the public? No? Nova, you want to take a vote? Make a motion. I need a motion. Okay, second?
Second.
Okay.
All right, Nova.
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Booter?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we're going to pull number 2. Anybody on the council would want to make a comment about that? Anybody from the public? Okay, do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve the monthly reports.
Second?
I'll second it.
Nova?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Booter?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we're going to pull number 3, the check register. Anybody on the council want to discuss that? Anybody from the public? All right, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the check register summary.
Second.
All right, Nova?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Booter?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we had a motion to pull item number 4 by Councilperson Barron, and I'd also like to pull that. So let's open a discussion. I think I have a slide that has it, Nova. Keep going. There it is. All right, and I'm going to turn this back over to Administrator Rarig to have this discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We adopt, the code requires that you adopt your budget calendar for the year. and it typically goes on consent. This one's really important because a couple years ago, Mr. Barron, as a council member, asked that we expand the number of public meetings. So we did add at least the 5-year CIP and the financial forecasting workshop to our repertoire of budget meetings. And then this year, I missed the fact that Mr. Barron had actually, I believe Mr. Barron you leave on the 6th of March, sir, and you're not back till the 27th?
22nd.
22nd. So that meeting that says 5-year CIP and financial forecasting workshop, either the week of March 10th or 17th, we need to modify that, Mr. Mayor. Now, you do meet on the 3rd and 4th of March. I'd not be so bold to recommend that you have another meeting that week, but we need to find another week. We can either push it to the last week of March, which is the 24th through the 28th, or the first week of April.
Do it on your birthday.
Happy birthday, Chip. Yeah, we can do it Monday the 24th.
Does that push it pretty close to the next meeting?
The regular meeting in April, is it the 1st or the 7th and the 8th?
It's the 1st.
So it's the 1st of April. Not really. That would be fine, Mr. Mayor, if we moved it to the week of the 24th, or even the 24th would be fine.
I've just have found in the past that these meetings really sneak up on you, and
Yes, sir.
all of
Well,
a sudden you wake up and say it's here, and my druthers would be to try to do it before he leaves.
so then I could recommend either, well, it'd have to be.
I want him here, certainly, so.
Yeah, Wednesday, March 5th would be the earliest that we could do it, sir.
I would respectfully disagree with that. I think that's too much for the public to have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday meetings. I'd much rather do it on the March 24th
So
or
you're
sometime that
you're
week.
okay with compressing it together with the next meeting?
Well, the next meeting is April 1st,
Right.
but it's not the same, I don't want it to
It's
the
not
same week. Yeah,
All right.
Day.
right.
Councilperson Barron, do you have an opinion on that?
I agree with Alessandra, and I don't really see the need to do it on Chip's birthday,
All right.
which would be the 24th. The 25th would be fine with me,
Okay.
since that's a normal Tuesday.
Yes, the rest of the boards and commissions, real quickly, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, are done with their meetings for the month. So we wouldn't be conflicted with Planning Commission or Forest and Beach Library Board or or
Hans?
cultural.
Hans, are you okay with that too?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's do it.
Okay,
So we could just say the week of the 24th and
Yeah.
just,
we'll poll you the week of the 24th. Thank you, council.
All right, that was good. Are there any other discussions on this?
But not from my perspective, sir.
Okay. Could you, since we have a few minutes here, could you maybe walk us through the process while we're here, just so that the public starts getting their heads into this process? Like, what are the steps that we're gonna take everybody through?
Sure. We could do our finance manager, or I can do my best, Mr. Mayor. So you're adopting the budget schedule today. What we're doing is that second box is we're in the process of developing the budget. What we usually do for CIP, unfortunately, is kind of a back-in. And Public Works Director is always, how much money do I have? How much money do I have? And I think that this council is not going to approach capital budgeting in the same way. From my discussions individually with you, you want to match up the goal or the priority of a particular capital project with the budget appropriation. So we'll be working with you on that. The 5-year CIP is just really kind of an exposure of everything that we have to do. I have told you that in the past, sometimes you're going to hear from residents who live in a particular neighborhood that will lobby you basically and say, wouldn't it be great if we can do X? And again, I think the posture of this council, when I've talked to you individually, is to kind of remove the politics from it and concentrate on public health, public safety, and essential maintenance. For example, Councilmember Dramoff and I have been talking about the sand ramp at 8th Avenue. Ms. Bilsey is working on that based on our discussion last week at the council meeting. So really, figuring out what we really need to do. And then again, touching base with the council. So throughout this process, we have those guardrails. So we're not coming up with something that you're not going to support in the end. After you give us kind of, you're not approving it, but you're giving us a nod for the capital projects for next year. The state law requires that the planning commission review capital projects for consistency with our general plan, which is like our constitution. So once you have a list, again, it's not totally approved, that goes off. So it kind of takes a separate route to go to the planning commission, and our planning director, who starts on February 3rd, will be taking it. Her name is Anna. She'll be taking it to the planning commission, and then again we submit the budget to you in draft, and we've got a series of hearings in between that, Mayor, for you to question us, to present it to the public, to engender more than 5 people. Thank you, Ms. Carr, for coming, to ask questions about the budget. So that really kind of, we move into the budget adoption cycle, if you will. We are required to adopt a budget before the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th.
I have a question before
Yes,
you
sir.
move on. Should that planning commission piece be listed on this schedule, since it seems to be a critical part?
You know, that's not a bad idea, and I'll look to my colleagues out there if we could add it, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to adopt a draft CIP so close to the end of the fiscal year that the planning commission has to have a special meeting. So if there's no opposition, Mr. Swanson, that would be probably the May meeting of the planning commission. I'll get you the date, so maybe Ms. Romero can insert it. That would be May 2nd Wednesday? May 14th. May 14th.
So we can insert a line item on this.
After the
this
May
calendar.
6th,
Yes.
correct, sir? Yes.
It's just good for everybody to know what's happening, because that's one of the reasons it sneaks up on you. You just sort of
Mhm.
miss steps.
Oh, and
Okay.
I was going to ask Ms. Field today, because Mr. Delves asked me, we've still not received the financial statement from the auditor, correct?
That's correct. So they'll be at the next full meeting in person with the report in hand. We probably won't get that report till right before that meeting, is my suspect.
That's unfortunate.
So that's the February meeting?
Yep.
All right, good. That's going to be interesting to look at.
The GAN limit is kind of a maniacal calculation that's part of state law that ensures that there's 2 ways of calculating our GAN limit, that we don't appropriate more money than we have revenue for all intents and purposes. Pretty logical law. But again, you'll adopt the GAN limit. You do that. The council does that on an annual basis. So yeah, then we basically close out the fiscal year. Now again, I know this council's going to want to start delving in on a little bit more regular basis, maybe quarterly basis, on looking at our revenues and expenditures, et cetera. So we'll work with you, and I know that you want to talk about what that looks like at our regular February meetings. So we'll be talking about that next month.
I'm sure no pun intended with delving in.
That
Okay.
was, yeah, that
I'm
was.
sure he will,
That was a
actually.
turn of phrase that I did not plan.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That was good.
All right. Anybody have any questions on this from the public? Did you understand all that? Good. Are you interested? Anybody up here?
There's no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, good. All right, so I guess we can get a motion on this?
A
With
motion?
the change?
Yeah,
You want to restate it?
I've been taking notes.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
you want to
you.
restate it?
So, yeah, I would make a motion to approve the fiscal year budget schedule as presented in the packet, with the exception of moving the 5-year CIP and financial forecast workshop to the week of March 24th, and with the addition of the week of May, the Planning Commission review of the CIP budget, the week of May the 12th.
Got that? Okay.
Seconded.
Nova?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Buder?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. So the next time we do this, it'll be a little faster. We'll be able to do several of them at once, I hope. All right, so now we're going to move on with the agenda to orders of business.
Oh.
And
We have one more item, Mr. Mayor, on
Oh,
consent that
yes,
got
sir.
pulled.
how could I forget that after I pulled it? I have another slide, if you could put it up.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm practicing still. All right, so we have one of the founders of AIM here. If, Mark, you want to come up and say a few words? Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting us. Mark Stillwell.
My wife and I own 2 hotels in Carmel, the Trademans and the new Stillwell Hotel. Also, I was a 6-year board member of Carmel School Board, and I'm currently on the board of Visit Carmel as well. So, and then AIM is it's a family charity founded by my wife and daughter, really. I was behind the scenes, but they went out looking for a youth mental health charity to support about 10 years ago when they realized we had a crisis among our nation's youth with mental health issues. They couldn't find one that was dedicated solely to youth mental health. So they founded their own, and it's been very, very successful. We fund research all across the country at national institutions ranging from Harvard, Yale, USC, UCLA, UCSF, to try to find better treatments and even cures for youth mental health elements. And then they also have done a lot with raising awareness and training youth and parents about issues that kids are facing today. And we started in our community here in Carmel, Monterey. We have several programs going, and Connie Cummings is here. She's our administrative coordinator for all of AIM's programs here, and does a tremendous job. She wrote the letter requesting the donation of the day this year, and it's perfect. I mean, it really explains everything that AIM does. But just to highlight, we have program at the high schools that AIM Ideas Lab, where high school students get together and talk about the issues their peers are facing, they are facing, and try to raise awareness among their parents and administrators about what they need. And then we also have an annual, you saw the art program, AIM's contest, really. And it's just amazing that the quality of the art and the incredible nature of some of the art produced by middle school through high school students here that we put on display for this event. So this event brings kids from all over Monterey County and their parents and school administrators. So it's very, very much appreciated. I think this is the 6th year or so? 8th year, oh my goodness. 8th year that we've had this event, and it's co-sponsored by Carmel Sunset Rotary, and just the kids are just ecstatic to come and talk about their art, see it appreciated, listen to some programs. So we're really here today to just thank you for continuing your support of youth mental health, and not just our community, but really throughout the nation. AIM has literally raised millions of dollars for youth mental health research in its 10+ years of existence.
So if any of us that are watching this want to donate, how would they do that?
Connie, you know all the details.
Just
several ways.
She needs to
go
get
ahead
to
and
the
step
mic.
up.
You can
please.
come up, step up.
Introduce yourself first.
Yes, good evening. I'm Connie Cumming.
Yeah.
There are several ways. We have our website with the traditional way where you can hit a tab and go ahead and just make a donation online. But we also have, through the Carmel Sunset Rotary or directly with me, we offer sponsorships to say sponsor the design challenge. It's a wonderful event, was well attended last year. The youth who attended were very proud to have their art displayed in such a lovely venue. And one young man came up and thanked me and wanted to know if it was going to be held at the Sunset Center again, because he couldn't wait to submit another artwork the following year so he could come back. So it is sponsorship for that would help cover the presentation by our Ideas Lab. They're going to present their Monterey County data research, as well as the art being exhibited and the awards presented. So that's at least 2 ways that we can do it. MC Gives just finished, so I can't plug the MC Gives for donating through that avenue. But we also have in kind, as well as if anyone wanted to do estate, that's also available on the website.
Thank you very much, and
Yeah.
thank you for all that you do. You're saving lives, and who knows the benefits of all of what you do. Are you ever going to take it national?
We are national.
You are national?
We are national.
It's not just
yeah,
California?
not just the support, but we have programs in Texas. We have programs in Southern California. People
Wow.
who work with us. So
It's fantastic.
we're trying to grow, because it is. When you think about it, it's 25% of our nation's youth struggles with some form of health issue.
It's a big
And,
deal.
if that was juvenile diabetes or something, or cancer, God forbid, we'd have billions of dollars dedicated to it. But the reason my wife and daughter founded this is they went to Stanford, and Stanford basically told them, we don't have any programs like this. We're at the end of the spigot in terms of research dollars and things like that, and it just made no sense to them.
Yeah.
Juvenile diabetes does $100 million plus a year, and it affects 1/10 of 1% of children. This affects 20 to 25% and growing. So they just rolled up their sleeves and started aiming.
Well, the city's thrilled to be able to help you. Thank you.
And our offices are equidistant between our two hotels. We rented space, AIM rented space on 4th Avenue, so it's a very convenient location to visit. It's just right there.
Right in the middle of town.
Right in the middle of town.
All right, thank you very much.
I will speak to your national
Yes.
question. We do, through the Design Challenge, receive artwork from all over the United States. Today I received one from Palisades Charter School. And I've
That's
received, New York, Washington, and last year's overall winner was from Australia. So
That's incredible.
We have an international scientific advisory board with professors from Oxford and University of Melbourne, as well as throughout the country. So
You are busy.
here we are,
Yeah.
as are you. Thank you very much
All
for
right.
your time.
I think we're ready for a motion.
Public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you do have public comment. We have more public comment. Yes, go ahead, step up, Andy.
I used to teach school, and I think it's absolutely fabulous what you're doing. I have 2 questions. How is this program coordinated with Ohana, the facility that was built through CHOMP with Bertie Bialec's money? So does this work in conjunction with that, number 1? And number 2, do you offer in-house, or I don't know the correct wording, for the public schools here? Do you go into the public schools at the various levels, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, with your program, to make them aware of the program and to help?
Yeah, go.
Quick answer, yes, on the schools, our programs are school-based. The AIM Ideas Lab is, as well as the art programs. As for Ohana delivers medical service, mental health medical service. We are not a medical delivery. We're research, awareness, and trying to get our research implemented by places like Ohana. So we have a great working relationship with Ohana, but AIM has predated Ohana by quite a number of years. But we've been working. We would hope that programs, research that we've funded, will ultimately be implemented at places like Ohana around the country.
Thank you.
Hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Online? No. All right, now we're ready for a motion. Anybody want to make a motion for the day use?
Fine. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-04, authorizing one free use day at the Sunset Center Theater and Lobby for the 2025 AIM Ideas Lab Youth Presentation and Awareness Design Challenge Reception.
Second. Third. You got me.
All right, Nova?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Buder?
Yes.
Councilmember Jermoff?
yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, I think now we're ready to move on to orders of business, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Rarig to kick this off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Jamie's going to give the presentation. For many years, and I know you've asked some questions of Emily about the history of at-home letter delivery provided by the city, and Jamie may have a couple of slides on this. This is a service that we provide. The last council said it should be need-based, and so what we do, and Mr. Pierrick helped us with this, if a resident of the 93921 suggests the 1 square mile has a medical condition that precludes them from visiting the post office on a regular basis. The city will pay for, we get a note from their physician, doesn't have to go into any detail, and the city will pay for at-home letter delivery paid for by a private service. So Jamie did a RFP and got some proposals back and has a suite of recommendations and thoughts for you to consider. So how's that, Mr. Mayor?
That's good. I have some questions, but I'm going to wait for the presentation.
For sure. Mayor and council, good evening. Thank you for having us up here. The recommendation.
Jamie, I'm so sorry. You got to get right on that. We're going to replace all the equipment. Brandon met with RIT with Joel this last week, so just please stay right on top of that.
Okay, how about
microphone.
this?
That's perfect. Thank you.
It's kind of shaky. I was afraid I was going to knock it over. Okay, so the recommendation tonight, in summary, is we're looking for a recommendation to execute a multi-year contract with Mogo Express for the delivery of mail from the post office to recipients within the city. That's what's on the agenda, just the contract. But this is also a start of informing the council today about what's going on, and that might help with future discussions regarding this service. But the only thing on the agenda tonight is the contract itself. So if we go a little bit in the background, I think we covered a bunch of this actually. It was originally open to anybody. It had been at one time 3 days a week, one time more than 3 days a week. During COVID, it was reduced to folks that qualify with a health reason. So, and the reason we're here tonight is that the council had given some guidance to take a look at this. We want to bring it back. But we have an ability right now to make an immediate savings, and it also has allowed us to put our toe in the water of what the options and opportunities are, because this has been kind of left on the sidelines unchanged since it was originally put in place in 2001, and this last contract's been running since 2015 with just these little touches. So tonight's our first chance to look at it, but the point tonight is the contract. And I think this actually is a slide that was put together during last year's budget process. So in response to questions from the community. So other folks are looking at this as well. So the request for proposal process, we had observed who's going around town and delivering. We put out a posting for people or a request for proposals to be received. We distribute it to a blend of locals and national carriers. We got 4 responses to our RFP, and several more indicated that they're working on providing this type of service in the future, but are not ready yet. And I'll say it, there's all sorts of courier options out there. Working with us as a city or government entity is actually a layer of complexity that not all of the courier services are able to do. So the folks we're bringing you tonight are the ones that can jump to that custom government level. So the suggested provider that we had after looking at those RFPs is Mogo. They are local. They are actively using technology to enhance customer service. They've provided similar home deliveries, so they're experienced in this home delivery aspect, and it'll help us with our cost savings as we're getting through the end of this year and into next year, just leaving it pretty much at the service level that it is now. They're very positive references. But to talk about that cost, which is what's driving it tonight, the number of participants has increased 5% just in the last couple months. The city's currently today looking at 86 people a month for an ongoing cost of $7,600. Last year we spent $82,000 in the year. We're on pace to spend $90,000 this year. And if that number stays the same or grows, the next year's number will be larger. The estimated cost of this new contract brings it back down to $5,300, which is about where it was before we went off contract with the previous service provider. In general, this contract will be less because they're a different contractor, it's a different structure, but we're also only going to pay for actual deliveries. Right now we pay a flat fee whether there was mail or not, regardless of how many times therefore the trip is happening. Most of the proposals we looked at were looking at actual deliveries, so that if you don't get mail, there's no mail to deliver, we save a little money. So The estimated total for this contract will vary based on the number of participants and how much mail they get. What we're looking at here is, let's put a contract in place through the end of June. Locks in a lower rate. We're on track. We're exploring the services. Then we have the option to extend it, but that also gives the city council and the city time to consider this contract. So tonight we're asking for the initial contract with the option to extend. And that's it. So based on the anticipated level of service and the proposed cost of the service, we're recommending the approval of this contract to save us some money right now. And tonight, that's all we're talking about is the contract. The service itself is something that's not on the agenda yet. But the budget's coming up, and of course, you're all new, so that's out there. So.
Just one final comment. You did get a written email from Mr. O'Neill, and you received it electronically, and then you have a copy at the dais.
No, it's
for you as well.
William O'Neill.
I'm sorry,
It was William O'Neill.
I apologize.
I've got a quick question. Are we ready for council questions?
Yes.
Okay. So right now this is daily, correct? So
Yes.
have we looked into maybe just doing this twice a week? Because as we read in the letter, and most of us have experienced, that there's not necessarily a need to go to the post office every day, and not everyone who lives here does that. So have we looked into that option?
And shout out to Emily, who did some research for us. She found in 2003 where the city council had actually dropped it down to 3 days. And then it got moved back up, and it's kind of been left rolling. They were looking at this as a 6-day a week. Now the post office told me they're only actually providing fresh mail 5 days, so this is all written as a 5-day. But certainly there are more couriers out there delivering direct to doors than there were in 2001 when this was put on the books. So some of the urgency that was driving that conversation is probably being addressed. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
So given the agenda, the way it's presented in the agenda, is the purpose for tonight to discuss a list of questions about how this is being done, the volumes and what days? Or are you just saying, let's approve this contract so we can save X amount per month?
I think both, Mr. Mayor. I
Okay,
mean,
you're-
I think the first, we can go back one slide, Jamie, again, if we do this initial period from now through the end of the fiscal year, we can save money over our current courier service. So we can see how the system works. But again, you're welcome to ask questions tonight. We can, if there are questions we can't answer, we can bring it back. So it's really at your pleasure.
So we can dig into, should we be doing this at all tonight?
100%, sir.
Can't
Okay.
decide, though. Right?
Pardon me?
Oh, or can they decide?
That's what I'm asking.
Could they decide not to do it?
Pardon me?
Could they decide not to do it tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Well, with respect, I mean, we already have an existing contract, so we can't really cancel the existing contract tonight.
I wouldn't recommend that you cancel without telling the 86 residents who received
Right.
the service
Yeah.
at this point in time. But
And then there's that.
And having a serious discussion.
We do have the ability to change the service, though, the contract. We wrote it so that it could be ended.
Yeah, so if I could go, I generally don't like to look back, but I thought we had a discussion, was it in December or November? We had this same discussion before I was mayor about this service, and Jeff did his homework and found out that we could save money by having some more people, which was impressive.
Yeah, that was with the existing company.
Okay,
If we
but-
got over 100.
But I thought that we made a decision to go forward with that, and now we're back again. So did something go wrong, or you just took it while we were negotiating the 20 extra people? We found out that we could have some other options. Is that what
I
happened?
think we had an RFP on the street at that point in time, and we were waiting to receive the proposals back.
Okay.
But that was correct, that Peninsula Messenger Service, which is our current carrier, if we got over 100, I think it was, that the price went down. We were looking for 14 more families or households.
So whatever happened, this is back. And
Yes, sir.
We need to do something about it.
And the
Okay.
Peninsula, did they submit a proposal as well, Jamie?
Yeah, Peninsula did submit a proposal, and the price is a little bit higher than the one we're looking at, but they again have a stratified structure, so if you jump off of this level into a different level, it becomes more expensive. So this is a more beneficial, it's basically a way to save money today and buy you time to decide what it is you want to do, while saving well, putting money in the bank.
When do we have to make this decision?
So Peninsula generally likes to be paid before the beginning of the month. So
So this isn't a month-to-month, you're asking us to
It
make a
is-
6-month commitment right now, really? That's what you're asking us for?
So, and I think to get somebody else down here and get them started, it'd be nice to give them a few months running. So I think that would be the question, but it's not necessarily tied to the fiscal year. So we have the ability. So it's really at your discretion if you want to save some money now, or if you want to say, wait, I think we're close, let's spend some more time on it. Completely looking for that guidance.
Why does another council person ask a question, and then I'll dig in?
Yeah, a couple. And for either of you, Chip or Jamie, what are the eligibility criteria? So like on that application, like in your slide, you said during COVID you needed a doctor's note, but in the packet it said you still need a doctor's note. So just to be clear, do you still need a doctor's note? And then is it means tested? So in other words, is there an income test?
No. And again, the doctor's note, I'm sorry, Jamie, if I may, the doctor's note doesn't say that, why you can't get there. It's just a doctor's note that says that, Mr. Eric is unable to get to the post office, and therefore the city picks up the responsibility, really, of at-home letter delivery. But there's no means testing, so it doesn't, there's no financial means testing, sir.
And somebody could be buying this service now, but nobody pays for it. So the only people who are taking advantage of it are the one that's getting it for free.
So I personally, I'm just sort of thinking about this in the moment here, but it feels to me like if somebody has the means, then maybe they can take on that responsibility. I have a neighbor she's like 90 years old. She's legally blind. She lives by herself. She can't drive. It's like a great candidate for this, right? And she doesn't have the means, right? But you could imagine a different scenario, in which case, spending $1,000 a year on that person maybe might not make sense. So it might be something for us to, consider.
Yeah, I would say it seems like we've had that discussion before, and we start sort of peeking inside this can of worms because the post office is not ADA accessible, and it's, the hours aren't all the time, and that's sort of a Pandora. I think what happened, I vaguely remember that discussion we had back during COVID when we did the means testing, when we did the medical testing, whether we were going to pry into what the medical excuse was. No, we weren't.
Yeah.
We had a discussion about the ADA stuff. I think we briefly touched on the ADA stuff. That was another can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
To put on my sort of political philosopher hat here for a second, I think one of the reasons that Medicare is so popular, beloved by everybody, is that everybody pays and everybody participates, and it's not means tested. And I think that I would be moderately averse. We can certainly have that discussion. I'm saying this to you because it's my opportunity to say it to you. We can have that discussion, but means testing to me sounds like a sort of a black hole of stuff that we really don't.
See, what's interesting is I actually feel like in this case it might be the opposite. Like it might actually have more support if people in their mind's eye didn't have like the person with means that we're just randomly subsidizing to the tune of like $1,000 a month, versus if they thought about like my neighbor who like she really needs it and she can't get to the post office, So I get your point for sure. I think it's worth discussing. And then the other piece is like, who's going to be doing the means testing and how much of a pain is that? So, anyway.
Yeah. Mr. Pierrick, didn't you give us some advice about means testing when we talked about this 2019 during pre-COVID?
Yes, I believe I did. I thought what we concluded was that we would apply the DMV standard for medical.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That was our decision. That's our recommendation.
And that's basically what we do now.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
So what this comes down to is there are a lot of questions I have in terms of how can we optimize this. And first of all, I thank you for digging into this at all, because we could have just been paying $7,500 a month for the next year. And I appreciate that you're saving us the money right off the bat. And we probably will need to approve that just to start saving that money. But I really think that, I don't know if anybody on the dais is interested in sitting down with Emily and Jamie and really looking at that. I don't think we can do it here. There's just too many questions, and we need the data. This might be a case where a real short-term ad hoc committee, I mean, or if you authorize me to work with Emily, I could just do it on my own. But I know that there's some smart people sitting with me here that might want to help, because I think it's worth truly understanding this before we start making decisions to eliminate it, when we might be able to do something to just save half the money. But maybe the vendor won't do it if we save half the money. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we need to understand. You know, it's got to be a business opportunity for somebody to even take it on.
I almost think we're overthinking this. I think it's a good program. I think we should continue it. I don't think it's being abused in any means. I think just the fact that you do need the doctor's note means these people who are participating are pretty sincere that they have this need. And I think it's something nice that the city can do. I would just be okay with going ahead with it. By no means am I thinking we should be canceling it or really overthinking it. I mean, the big picture, it's a reasonable amount that we could continue.
Yeah, my only question to you, if this were to come back, would be, you know, if we cut it to 4 days a week, you know, would we save 20% of the money? Like, you know,
If I could, I'm not sure. They had some detail in here, but not enough. I'm not sure it would matter, because they're charging basically for every piece of mail that's delivered.
No, it's a visit per house. So
Yeah.
if we have 4 visits a house per week rather than 5 visits a house per week, the cost for that house would go down $3 a house.
Yeah, in theory, this is for actual deliveries. So if you have less deliveries, so at some point, does service say, I want so many? But I think what we're seeing is there's more out there, and they're flexible. So we can ask, how many would we be comfortable with? Then would be the next question.
I mean, probably 90% of the mail I get, I don't even open. So we're paying for a lot of mail that's probably junk mail, and I'm not sure how we could ever understand that, or if it make a difference. It just seems like, I think we could understand this a little bit better to see how we can negotiate with the vendors.
Yeah, I think also, and Chip, you could, sorry for
no, go ahead.
I think also there was a discussion, I'm trying to remember whether we had when we had this discussion last time, whether we talked about, you know, there are sort of legal things that we have to do to pick up someone else's mail. Do you remember all that stuff? Like there's some relationship between us and the vendor and the post office, and I'm not sure, like, people that send out that EDDM mail, which goes to every PO box, like, when we all call it junk mail, but you know, the stuff that like goes to every PO box in 93921, I'm not sure if we pick up people's mail, if we're allowed to throw it away. Like, I'm not sure that that's and I would be uncomfortable doing that, so I'm not sure that we should be in the business of sorting through people's mails. Like, what you get is what you get.
So the agreement for picking up the mail is between the mail recipient and the person that's picking it up. So there's a piece of paper that the post office gets that says this courier is allowed to pick up my stuff. So, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. They pick up everything and they walk out the door. So
I find it interesting that the U.S. Postal Service doesn't bid on delivering mail. I didn't see their name on here. So I'm going to open it up to the public, just get some other viewpoints, and then we can come back and discuss it again, if we could. Is that okay? All right. Sarah, you have to come up to the microphone, Sarah. If you want to line up, if there are more than 2 people.
I'm kind of an advocate of mailboxes. This is very unique, this city, not having any mailboxes. I understand there's a need out there, but a mailbox would solve a lot of these problems and save a lot of money. So I don't understand why we are not exploring the option of everyone having a mailbox.
Thank you.
That's my question.
That certainly is a different discussion.
How much time do you have?
To say the least. Thank you, Sarah. Andy?
My question might have been answered. Is there a reason why we can't have like a volunteer group that is happy to deliver the mail?
I believe that's been looked at before. I don't remember how it was resolved, but it's certainly not a minor request of a volunteer group to do. I mean, it's unrelenting.
Yeah.
Right.
Being a volunteer, I would say that it's a lot of work. Any other comments? Kenny, do you have anything to say? Okay. Anybody online?
There's no hands raised on
Okay,
Zoom.
let's bring it back.
I can answer, I can try, the young lady who talked about mailboxes, and that's a much more involved conversation that we've been wrestling with for 109 years. So, and we'd be happy to meet with you offline. It's something that the council's been talking about for some time, not just at-home letter delivery, but street addresses, which are two separate things in our minds. And then the second, there was some, again, as Jamie said, the contract between the recipient of the mail and the Postal Service is with the carrier, not with the city. All we're doing is basically paying the bill to the carrier. So I'm not sure whether a volunteer group, whether they would meet the criteria of the Postal Service's rules. I don't know the answer, Ms. Carr, I'm sorry. But that was looked at when we talked about this in its latest permutation. I just don't know the answer.
What if we, I think this seems like a good deal. Like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's a significant savings, and it's just money in our pocket. It's only a 6-month contract or less. So what if we just go ahead and approve this, and I don't know how it's, in terms of how it's agendized, if we could direct staff at a future meeting to come back with, maybe they could talk to a couple of these folks that responded to the RFP, or others, about how would the pricing structure change if you went to 4 days a week, for example, and then also maybe staff could dig into the means testing concept and just present those to the research on those to us at a future meeting, but we could just pocket the savings, right now.
If we could, is it possible to just approve this through the end of this year?
Yes, sir.
The fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
So we could just make that resolution today?
Yes, sir.
Pending, and not just to kick the rest of it down the road, but to do some really detailed research and maybe including council people? Would you be
Yes,
against that?
No, not at all.
So,
Okay.
No, and I think Mr. Booter seeded some of those questions
Yeah.
that you want to have answered.
Yes.
So we'd be happy to work with any of you, obviously.
So I'd be for that.
Yeah.
Is another council person willing to
So
work with me?
I have a comment on
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
I think, if we're going to not approve, so first, I think we should just approve it for all 3 years. I mean, I think that the extension 1, 2, and 3 are at our whim anyway. And I don't see any reason why, if we came up with an alternative, we couldn't just put the ixnay on this contract. So I don't see any benefit to just approving it for 5 months.
It's really the same thing, so I'm fine with that.
I would be rather loath to, go back to unified delivery and Sempex and Peninsula Messenger Service and sort of ditch MoGo right off the bat. Like, I think, we have our foot in the door of MoGo, and I think that we should, I think we're somewhat committed to more than 5 months of dealing, assuming that the vendor pans out. I wouldn't feel comfortable, I talk about the city's reputation a lot, and I wouldn't feel comfortable just hiring this company for 5 months and then, we got a better offer when we change the terms, and going back to Peninsula Messenger Service or someone else. So we can do what we want, but in the future, I would, I'm just saying that I would be rather loath. I would be rather loath to do that.
Jamie, are you the one negotiating with them, or who is?
Yeah, that's me.
So would they be, if we went, let's just say we signed up for the 3 years, and then we went and did our detailed research with or without council members participating, and we came up with a better business model that made sense to us and lowered the price, would they be amenable to us changing that business model if we came up with something better?
Well, and I think you can kind of turn it around and say, if they're a good partner, we're going to work with them to see what can work and figure out what way makes this a viable business for them and supports them, and also this. And I think the people I've been talking with are flexible. They're used to this coming and going. Most of the people I'm talking with are used to one-off and small contracts, so this is actually a really big one. So if we were to work with them and get their ideas in, I think it's quite feasible for us to do that.
Would it be possible for people who aren't getting mail delivery now to pay, and they charge them?
Yes.
So this could open up a way to solve some of the mail delivery problems that people are having.
It could. I will say, I think that's also been there in the past, but nobody's doing it. But it could just be us that we didn't get that word out.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Jamie, I've got a quick question. If for some reason, though, that we did want to get out when this extension 1 starts, the way the contract is written, would we be allowed to do so? Would we be allowed to break it? Let's say, if people are not happy with the service, just for example.
Yes. Yes, we are very carefully in wording these so that we have the flexibility we need, given the uncertainty of what we're trying to accomplish.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
I just had one last question on, you mentioned that you guys had checked references, et cetera, and I just wasn't clear from the materials. Have they done this with other cities? I'm thinking this is kind of a different type of situation. They're doing some smaller contracts. I don't think it's brain surgery, but it's worth asking.
Yeah. No, we are the only city that's doing this.
Yeah.
And so that's actually one of the difficulties. There's a lot of couriers out there that are able to pick up business and do these kinds of pickups. Uber, Lyft, DoorDash will, at your direction, go get and do whatever you want. But the city being involved is actually making it more complex.
But you feel confident they can handle it, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. It sounds like we might be ready to make a motion to basically approve what you're presenting to us tonight, with the idea behind that we're going to start doing some research, which I'm willing to do. Hans, are you interested in working with me on that? We have some time, obviously, to do that, because we've got 5 months.
Sure. Yeah.
Do we have to set up a committee to do that, or?
Not technically, but if you want to formalize it, you could do that.
I trust that Hans will work on it with me, and I don't think we need to formalize it.
All right, that's fine.
And it's not going to take long, because we've got a great staff. They've got a lot of data already, so we might be able to do it very quickly. And that way we can bring that back when we discuss it, when that comes up.
Right, and so if you're looking for just the 5-month contract, Mr. Mayor.
No, we're looking for the 3-year contract.
Okay, the multi-year.
I agree with Alessandra and Jeff.
Okay.
That's a good way to go.
That's the way the resolution's written.
Yes.
Got it.
So we'll need a motion.
So I make a motion approving resolution 2025-05, authorizing the city administrator to execute a multi-year contract with Mogo Express for the delivery of mail from the post office to recipients within the city for a not to exceed amount of $270,000, granting the contract through June 30th of 2025 with options to extend annually thereafter, and directing staff to work with Mayor Byrne and myself on ways that we could potentially reduce the monthly cost, either some of which might include reducing to 4 days a week or something along those lines, or means testing or similar concepts.
I'll second that.
Nova.
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Booter?
Yes.
Councilmember Dremel?
Yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you.
I think that takes care of our orders of business for today.
Yes, sir.
I think
And
we
I'm
need to
going-
read the closed session title and
Oh,
ask
yeah.
for public comment.
Do I do that?
I think
I'll
the
take
city
care of it.
attorney
Brian's
usually
gonna
does.
do it.
So we have a closed session, conference with labor negotiators. That's pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives are listed in the agenda. The employee organization is the Carmel Fire Ambulance Association.
You can ask us any comments, Mr. Mayor, before we go into.
Are there any comments on the closed session? Okay, no comments? All right. Meeting is adjourned.